how to address this? How do we tackle climate change? This is a long process. As I said, an agreement in 1997 took a while to negotiate that. Another agreement maybe at the end of this. It's a long, painful, drawn-out process, like all diplomatic processes, and even more painful and more brinkmanship and longer than climate change. And there's a good reason for that. Good reason for that because it takes time. This will cost. This will have major impact on how we think about energy reuse, about economic growth and things. So there's a cost, there's a division of costs. So we're negotiating a division of effort, a division of cost among countries. Who is responsible? Who will pay for the cost of the fight against climate change? And there we go to our starting point, the third of our journey, which is the city Kyoto, the Kyoto Protocol. You've heard about it. As I said, it was signed in 1997. Three major principles that are to a large extent still with us. So the first really says that we have to limit man-made emissions. There's no global figure yet, so the 2 degrees centigrade was not there yet, it came later. Second, a very important principle, common but differentiated responsibilities, means that those who have historical responsibilities will be asked to do more than the others. And there was a very clear division at the time. We had Annex 1 and Annex 2 countries. Annex 1, that's us, developed countries. We had obligations to limit emissions. Developing countries such as Singapore, China, others, and no obligations. So it's a clear distinction between the two. The ones who do the effort, the others do not. And that is tied firmly to his historical responsibilities as it was rolled out in 2 periods, and it runs out finally in 2020, and that's when we have to look for a successor agreement, and that's where we're working on now. So in Paris, the idea is to get a successor agreement that will enter into force in 2020. What are the building blocks of that agreement? Let me first say that, as I said, it's a diplomatic process, it's a long one, it's an incremental one. Some would say in advance at a very glacial pace, and all that is fine and all that. But we're moving forward. We've all heard about the Copenhagen negotiations, some refer to as the Copenhagen debacle, there's road meetings, and it's generally referred to as a failure, but there were some stepping stones put in place. One of them was agreement on the 2 degrees objective, and also the fact that not just developed but also developing countries were required to make some efforts, to do some contributions in the fight against climate change. So it illustrates that although this seems to move very slowly, there is a clear movement in a good direction. So what are the building blocks? And these were decided in 2007 of an agreement. There's 4 of them. There's climate mitigation, there's adaptation, there's financing, and there's transfer of technology. To start with the 2 first ones, mitigation, adaptation. Mitigation really means tackling the causes of climate change. It's limiting the emissions of CO2. The obvious example is renewable energy sources. If you have wind power, solar power, you don't need to burn fossil fuels, there's less emissions. That's clear. Another less obvious example is the fight against desertification. The example is in the Guizhou province in China. Because plants and trees absorb CO2, they don't end up in the atmosphere. So that's mitigation. The other linked concept is that of adaptation. So mitigation really trying to tackle the causes. Adaptation is tackling the effects. This is an example. I referred earlier to Holland, where they might, because of the rising sea level, they might have to find a way to cope with that. Already they are surrendering parts of the land to the sea. And one of the ideas they've come up with is having floating houses. So you cannot avoid the rise of the sea level, so what do you do? It may be a good idea for Singapore to go to the lack of the land and build some houses, HDBs on the water. These are linked. The more you can do mitigation, the less you need adaptation. Adaptation, the thing with that is that most of the bad consequences of climate change really is situated in developing countries. For developing countries, to deal with mitigation, to deal with adaptation, it's not easy, they don't have the means to do it. And that's why we come to the next slide. We have two means of doing that. One is transfer of funds, and the other is transfer of knowledge. Both are mainly situated in the developed world, and we need to see a transfer of growth to the developing world. Have them on board in our fight against climate change. There is a Green Climate Fund that was created and it's got its headquarters in Korea. The idea is that by 2020 we have some $100 billion from public sources, from private sources, ready to be transferred to the developing world. I think we're now at $10 billion. And Belgium, I'm happy to say, is contributing $65 million to that fund. That's one thing. To give you an example of a fund, there's the REDD. That you've heard about it. It's the reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation. It's a way of doing sustainable forest management. It's active in Indonesia. The building, there was a slight whiff of burned wood. And this fund is there to address this problem. It's learning people to manage forests in a sustainable way so you don't have to burn it and so you don't have to haze and other related problems in Singapore and Malaysia. Technology transfer. Technology is mainly situated in the developed world. If we want growth in countries such as India and African countries to be in a clean way, they will have to have these. So how will we transfer that? It's not just a gift, there's also within WTO, World Trade Organization, there are negotiations on an agreement on green goods. So easier transfer of this technology to the developing world. Again, let's look at Belgium and Singapore in this negotiation process. Let's compare and contrast. First look at the similarities. Obvious ones, we have a big port in Antwerp. You have a big port in Singapore, and we could have taken this picture in Singapore as well. The only difference is that your cranes are bigger than ours. Size doesn't matter. The other one is that both petrochemical hubs. This is Jurong Island. It could have been the picture taken from Antwerp. We have the same companies. Smaller again than Singapore. You can compare the two. Two small open economies amongst the most open economies in the world. As we've seen, vulnerable to climate change and also dependent on imports for our energy needs. And a limited scope for renewable energy. I was told in Singapore you can have around, if all goes well, 10% of your energy needs covered by solar energy. In Belgium, that's slightly higher. We have more wind, and we can have offshore wind power. It's less of a problem in Belgium as well because as a member of the European Union, we have a lot of energy, connectivity, electricity, also wind power. The idea is to get all the wind parks in the North Sea connected. France, Belgium, UK, Denmark, Germany, Holland, to get all these connected. Whenever there's more wind in Denmark, they can sell their surplus to us, but there's more wind in Belgium, to Denmark. One of the advantages of being a member of the European Union and pulling our sovereignty. What we also share, and this we share with every country in the world, is what we call the trilemma of competitiveness, energy security, sustainability. Why trilemma? Because, for instance, if we want to do something on sustainability of our growth, we change from fossil fuels to renewable energies, initially that might be more expensive. So that way we have a problem with our competitiveness, especially compared to what's happening in the United States, with shale gas and everything. So there's a comparative advantage for the Americans. Also, energy security. Look at Germany. Germany Energiewende, the energy change, where they decided to phase out nuclear energy and put everything on renewables. Because of Fukushima, they decided to do away with nuclear all at once and had to burn more fossil fuel and use more coal. So energy security, yes, but then sustainability. So it's presented as a trilemma. You cannot do all together. Some prefer to present as a triangle in trying to strike a balance between the three: competitiveness, energy security, and sustainability. When countries go to negotiations, such as climate negotiations, it's something they have in mind. We want to have fight against climate change, sustainable growth, but we need to address the issue of energy security. We need to address keep our competitiveness in the world. Those were the similarities of differences as well. And as we like to say, you stand where you sit. Where does Belgium sit? As I said, Belgium sits comfortably within the European Union, as we like to say, at the heart of the European Union, the one of founding members. What does that mean? As I said earlier, you can pool sovereignty, you can pool your targets within the European Union. Belgium, for instance, our scope for renewables is not the same as Denmark. So their target can be higher, ours can be lower. We can, maybe emissions from industrial sectors, we can do more effective than in Denmark. So there's a connection there which you would not have, for instance, within ASEAN. The other thing is this: the EU has a very ambitious position in these climate negotiations. Last year we agreed that by 2030 we would cut emissions by 40% compared to the level we had in 1990. Renewable energy would be 27% Europe-wide, and we would raise our energy efficiency by 30%. For Singapore, it's a slightly different proposition. Singapore is a member of ASEAN. ASEAN does not have a common position on climate change. To add that for the European Union, in these climate negotiations, the negotiator union, so it speaks on behalf of all 28 member states. ASEAN does not do that. Singapore is in a very interesting position that it's within these talks member of the G77, of the developing states, and also of the Association of Small Island States. Now, the interesting thing is that in terms of ambition, the small island states are very near the European Union's position for obvious reasons, because, as I said earlier, they're very much at risk. Some people refer to them as the sinking islands, the first to feel the full brunt of the impact of climate change. G77, India, China, Pakistan, and others are slightly more defensive, I would say. Historical responsibilities, aligned to the developed world. We still have some catching up to do with our growth. We cannot limit our growth at this point. We will come at the next stage. So it is an interesting position. We will find Singapore, how to characterize it, how to characterize it as strategically ambitious and practically more cautious. I hope everybody's happy with that characterization. Singapore has put forward climate targets, reduction targets as well, minus 11% by 2020 compared to business as usual. Business as usual is on the current path where it would be in 2020. So compared to that, minus 11%, unless there's an international agreement, then they would raise their ambition to 16%. Okay, which brings us the road to Paris. So we started in 97 in Kyoto, we're now in 2003. which we put this somewhere around here. You're supposed to fasten your seat belt and put your seat in upright position, and we hope to land by the end of the year when we have the conflict of parties, the 21st already happening in Paris. Where are we now and what are the issues under discussion? Where we are, there were talks in Lima, Peru in December last year. The good news is they agreed on elements that would go into the agreement at the end of the year. They agreed on one text that would be the basis for negotiations. The less good news is that that text is 86 pages. And it's all the options, all the positions in one text. Even worse news is that in December it was a text of about 43 pages, now it's 86 pages. So there's still some work to be done before December discussion. Text is there, so this good news as well. It has already the structure of the final agreement, mitigation, adaptation, all these things are there. Other thing is that all countries, developed and developing nations, are to submit what we call intended nationally determined contributions. I'll repeat that because every word is important. Intended nationally determined contributions. Every country has to decide which contribution it wants to make. These are intended contributions. They're not commitments. They are nationally determined. There's a lot of sovereignty in there. Each country will be defining its own contribution. Intended contributions by itself, ideally in the first quarter of this year, in that case, before the negotiations in Paris. So let's say we are on track for the agreement in Paris, and we keep working the possibility of raising the emission after 2015. Now, what are the key issues? Identify 5, and any agreement will be a package of these 5 elements. There will be give and take trade-offs between these elements. As the European Union, as I said earlier, we put forward ambitious and what we think is a fair position. Others have a different position, and that will be reflected in these 5 points. Level of ambition, it's clear, 2 degrees Celsius as a limit to the rise of temperature, but how firm will that be at the end of this year? We're working for the agreement in 2015, which would end in 2020. So some are saying, let's have a lower level of emission, and gradually after that next 5 years we will get to the emission we want to have. But what guarantee do you have if you lower your science rate now that you will get to a good and ambitious result in 2020? As I said, the intended nationally determined contributions, how binding should they be? The intended contributions that are signed by binding. We would like to see them ideally as binding. The possibility of evaluating them. There's no clear that will happen. Then participation, will all 196 countries participate? Ideally, the biggest emitters should participate. There is a clear trade-off between participation and level of emissions. What you could do is say, well, we want to have everybody on board, let's lower the emission rate. Everybody on board, place like movement, and we accelerate after that. Others would say you have no guarantee when they're at the high end, so let's go for something ambitious. But then you risk scaring the horses, and some countries, so horses might fall. Third point, mentioned earlier, developed versus developing nation. There is a very strict division in the Kyoto Protocol that is slightly less sharp now, but it's unclear where that has moved to go. So it's clear that developed countries will have higher commitments, obligations than the developing one to be negotiated. What the difference will be. It's said that after China and the US came to an agreement, there was a slight opening, but it's unclear how big that opening really is. Instrument, the binding one, or a neutral one. Officially, it could be a protocol, a legal instrument, or a agreed outcome with legal force. so that's still left open and still to be decided. And finally, financing. I discussed that, so how much money, how much in terms of technology will be transferred to the developing countries. So the end result, hopefully at the end of this year, will be a package, the right balance. In any case, this will go through the wire. It's difficult, it's a dynamic and complex process. It's not that you just have two camps. On one hand, EU, more ambitious ones, and the other hand, within each issue, you might have different alliances and different movements. Singapore is an interesting case where you have the opposition inside the country itself. You want a small island state, the G77, the voluntary countries. So, to conclude, time is moving. This is Paris. So I've taken you along the long and winding road of climate negotiations. And here we are in Paris. You probably recognize the Arc de Triomphe, where we should have a triumphant entry. We hope for a historic agreement that is a binding legal instrument with all countries developing, emerging, accepting commitments, and with mechanisms in place to follow the implementation. An agreement should be ambitious towards a 2 degrees centigrade goal, but sufficiently flexible and dynamic that all countries. As you can see, the Arc de Triomphe is open on both sides, so there's no end of the journey. There will be a follow-up. So efforts must continue, and ambitions must be released to save lives on our planet. Not save our planet because our planet will be fine even without us, but to save planet effort. Climate change is real. As we've seen, the international community is trying to address this challenge. It can be an excruciatingly slow process, but it's a necessary and urgent one. As in Charles Dickens' novel, The Tale of Two Cities, where the title of this talk is both the best of times and the worst of times. There are perils, there are opportunities. If we act now, we can grasp the opportunities. Before ending this talk, I want to highlight the importance of all nations, including small ones like Belgium and Singapore, of acting now and participating in the common effort against climate change. Of course, it doesn't only depend on governments. It starts with the woman or the man in the mirror doing it every morning to develop a climate reflex and our own little part to combat climate change. So, on that note, I'd like to end my talk. Thank you for your attention. I hope I haven't been too long. Now it's your turn. So you have a Q&A.